Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be discussing millennials entering the market. I know this can sometimes seem like a sort of hot button topic you see online, constantly talking about the millennials, but we really are going to talk about them and them entering the real estate market. They're all turning like 30, 31, 29 this year. And for the last 10 years, the younger buyers, the first-time home buyers have complained that it's not like when their parents and grandparents bought a house. You couldn't buy a house for $50,000 and move in and live there your whole life. It just wasn't possible. Well, the millennials, which are the largest adult population since the baby boomers, they are actually finding themselves in a sweet spot right now where interest rates are very, very low. Unfortunately, they're having to pay more for their house because of demand. There are not enough houses to feed the entire buying population, but the interest rates are 2.6%, 2.5%. So that means that a buyer, I've got a 23-year-old buyer right now. He is going to buy his first house because his interest rate is going to be like 2.75%. So where he came to me thinking he could buy a $120,000 house because that's what he thought he could afford, he has very quickly found out that he really can afford a $200,000 house because the monthly mortgage payments are going to be so affordable at, 2.75%. He's going to be able to afford so much more house just because of the low interest rates. So I'm certainly not trying to push his comfort zone on the sale price of the house that I'm looking to sell him, but he's going to be able to buy a house now that is actually going to suit him a lot longer than if he were to do, a first-time purchase that's only going to last maybe 2 years, 3 years, and then he outgrows it. So the millennials are going to be starting to buy homes in the next couple of years, and they are a huge population, and they do not necessarily want what my generation wanted. So a lot of my friends live in these big old subdivisions with 100 cul-de-sacs in them, in these big, huge houses with a huge finished basement and 4 or 5 bedrooms and 2 or 3 bathrooms. And that is not exactly what millennials are looking for. Millennials are looking for affordability. They are very, very financially conscious. And Donna has a millennial. Her oldest son is a millennial and is getting ready to get married and getting ready to, rent their first house. And they are very financially conscious. So they are looking for something different in the style of living. They're looking for affordability. They're looking for amenities. So they would like very much to be near all the things they like to do.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Donna.
We were actually talking last night because my son and his fiance are getting married in November. She just lost her full-time job. He is getting ready to hopefully get another full-time job. And so we were discussing the steps, and he's like, he's very, very organized on this, and his thought process is he's hard. He's like me, researches and everything. So he said, we're going to rent to begin with because we're just, financially we're getting started trying to get things, and he's got a school loan. So he says, but I don't want to rent very long. He said, I want to get into the market. He said, because for me, he said, the point of renting your whole life, throwing your money away, he said, I want to buy. He said, I want to buy as soon as possible. He said, we've got a plan. So yes, very much financially conscious, what they need to do, the steps they need to do. He said, so that's what they're, thinking about. And they're very, they are, as far as he said, wanting to look at, renting something that's nice, but not top of the line, so that they can save money to go towards that, that new home that they want to get in.
Yeah, they're having roommates longer. They're cohabitating longer. What's happening when you really think about the life that they have lived in their short period of adulthood, They first paid the most money anyone's ever paid to go to college, right? Taken out more student loans than any other generation before them. And then they came out of college and could not find a job. They were well qualified, happy to work. They are not a lazy generation, but they couldn't find work. They couldn't find a job. They were having to piecemeal together 2 and 3 jobs to make their standard of living. And all the while having to go ahead and start paying student loans, and then we hit coronavirus, and many of them are some of the younger on the hierarchy at employment, or new hires. And so they're the ones getting cut from the jobs. So they have not, they are wise beyond their years. They have not, in my generation, I'm 47 years old. I came out, I got a job, I worked. I have never had job insecurity that was beyond my control. That can't be said for the younger population right now. A lot of their future feels very chaotic to them, I feel sure. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty about unemployment rates. And there are not any longer those jobs where you get a job and you work there for 40 years and you get your diamond watch and you retire. That is just not how employment is anymore. So they are going to reinvent home ownership. They're going to reinvent employment. They're going to reinvent a lot of things. And they are a massive, massive group of people. So what I'm encouraging you to do is try to think like the millennials. There are going to be a lot of home buyers in the next 10 years that are younger than me. And I am going to try to at least have my head wrapped around what their challenges are, what their motivations are. I'm gonna, like last night, this 23-year-old that I'm showing houses to, he's not gonna want me to upsell him. He's not gonna want me to say, oh, but you could buy so much more. You could get a nicer house. You could get a bigger yard. You could get whatever. He's gonna want me to make sure I'm showing him houses that he can afford and he can feel comfortable being able to afford if he loses his job, or his job gets downsized, or he has a period of job insecurity. He's already talking about having a roommate. He's going to have a roommate just to help offset the costs. This is a very smart generation of people. So what that means is what style of house they want is looking a little different. The ranches that only have 1 bathroom, I'm going to encourage people who have a ranch with 1 bathroom to maybe finish out some of the space in the basement and at least put in 1 more bathroom, because you may have people living within the home who are not family members, who are roommates, and they may want to each have their own bathroom. So when you're looking at houses I'm looking for houses for him, and I know he's going to have a roommate. So we really are going to need to have a 2-bathroom house, or even at least a 1.5 bath house. And I know he's not looking in a very expensive price point. So that's going to be a little difficult to find, but I do think it's out there. And one of the things I would ask you to do so that you can be more in tune to what they're doing is, the millennials are using technology more so than the other generations. So go ahead and get the Zillow app. Go ahead and get the Realtor.com app. I'm guilty of keeping my Flex MLS app on my phone, and I'm not keeping those apps, those consumer side apps, on my phone. So I'm challenging myself to go ahead and download both of those, install them on my app, and I'm going to fill it out as if I am a consumer. So I'm going to fill out my profile like I am a home buyer. And then I'm going to use it some. And I'm going to see what sort of capabilities, what sort of functionality that those apps have for the consumer, because those are my clients. I want to know what they're seeing. I want to know what sort of functionality they're using on those apps to be able to find houses that come on the market. And if I'm on those apps, I'm also seeing what sort of advertising they're being exposed to, right? Those are things I'm not going to see, obviously, on our MLS app. Now, I'm certainly going to use that, obviously, because that's going to have the MLS information that only I can see as a realtor. But by getting to know those apps, I'm going to be able to see what my consumer is seeing. and be able to be a little more tuned into their side of the transaction. It never hurts to go sit on the other side of the fence and see what it feels like to be the consumer rather than being the realtor. Anybody have any questions about that? Is anybody currently using Zillow or Realtor.com as an app on their phone? I wasn't either. Are you, Andrea? Okay. Will you unmute and share just for a moment about how are you using that?
Well, because currently I still haven't gotten my license, so I don't have the MLS. So for me, I like to just go on it and really see what is being sold, how much it's being sold for, what areas and things are being sold at what price points and things like that. So I can have a better idea once I get to the point where I can actually do what I want to do.
BPR is taking forever.
And they're like, yeah, we've received it, but it's still in transition, whatever that means. So that's what I'm trying to do is to not only see that, and I have several of my friends who are purchasing houses, so I'm helping them, find what it is that they're looking for. And, I have one guy who's gone through 23 houses, 23 offers before he finally just got his house now. Mm-hmm. So just feeling the same thing that all of those buyers are feeling, that they can see all these houses, but by the time they get to them, they're already sold.
That's right. Yeah, I had someone call me last night and say, hey, I'm off work on Monday. Can we go see this house I'm interested in? And I was like, I'm free, but I don't think that house is going to still be there. Right. Any chance we could go one evening this week? Yeah. I mean,
with Eddie, he called me at, the house had been on the market. One of my past clients, he called me at 7:30 on a Tuesday evening and said that it had been on. He had just saw it come on. Can we go? And I got my clothes on because I was already in for the evening. So I got it, and we hopped out there, and right then and there, that night we said, we want it, and started on the process, because he had several that had, of the time.
They only have to lose one, and then they realize. And sometimes they have to lose one, because I've had buyers where they want to still come in low, or they want to still ask for, a ton of closing costs, or, and they're not listening to me about how that's not the market we're in, and that our market isn't allowing that. And then they lose one, and then they actually realize, oh, she wasn't kidding. Like, we're just not going to get a house unless we get more competitive. So, and all the while I'm telling them, I wish this weren't our market, but it is. And all we can do is try to make our offer as attractive as possible.
And I'll chime in on the Zillow. Realtor.com is a great product. Their app is good, but I'm on Zillow on my phone as well for my clients, because they say it's a better user-friendly source. Like, they're able to search better on the Zillow app. So sometimes if they're calling me, I just saw this on Zillow, I'll hop on my Zillow app to try to see what they're seeing, because sometimes it's different. Sometimes it looks a little different than what we're seeing on MLS. And that's how I use the Zillow app.
And I'll piggyback on that and say, when I have clients ask me which app they should have, here I am, a National Association of Realtors member, and I should be pushing the Realtor.com app, but I tell them to put Zillow on. You know why? Zillow is going to also have for sale by owners on it. Mm-hmm. And Realtor.com is not. So that is a huge reason why I should have Zillow on my phone as well, so that I can also be keeping an eye on any for sale by owners and letting my clients know up front that I'm happy to sell them a for sale by owner house, that I'm happy to get us an appointment for that, but that I should be the one reaching out to the seller. And that if they see a for sale by owner they'd like to take a look at, just to text me the address and let me arrange that. So Zillow and Realtor.com, the reason why those are going to have more robust search features than our MLS app, because, we do have the Flex MLS app, but it does not have advertising revenue. Realtor.com and Zillow, those apps have advertising revenue. They are swimming in money. So they have the money to put into functionality and more bells and whistles and a more user-friendly, more modern look and usability. So don't underestimate how much money Zillow and Realtor.com have, because they have a lot of money. Now, last thing I'll touch on about the millennials and the Zillow app is, another thing you want to remind them of is Zillow and Realtor.com sell their information. So if they click that button that says, send me more information, then that end user, that consumer's contact information is being sold to multiple real estate agents. So I make sure I educate my buyers very early on to pull that finger back and don't click the button on Realtor.com or Zillow, because if they do, 3 or 4 real estate agents are going to contact them. And potentially I could get cut out of the scenario if they are clicking buttons and meeting with other real estate agents. So it's an awkward conversation, but it is a conversation you need to have early on so that they understand that clicking that button sells their information. And I'll share with you that my 23-year-old client that I am showing houses to, we had an awkward situation like that. My husband works with his mom. They've been teachers together forever and ever. So she recommended he call me and have me help him find his first house. And I was communicating with him. I had set him up for a subscription on our MLS so that he was getting properties emailed to him. And then, but we had not met yet, and I'd not shown him any houses, and we had not done an exclusive right to represent buyer form yet. However, I got a phone call from another agent at another firm who we had to have that awkward conversation where he said, Ashley, I think we might have a mutual client in common. And that you never want to hear that, because that means they're working with 2 different real estate agents at the same time. And of course I had asked my client, if he wanted to work with me. He had indicated he did, that he wanted to exclusively work with me. However, and this is not the method under which I would advise you to handle this situation, but I'm the broker. I'm the owner of the firm. I have to be careful. As y'all well know, agents at other firms may come to work for me one day. So I have to be a little bit more careful about how I handle those situations. So in this case, I didn't reach back out to my client. I just told that other agent that I would be more than happy to politely decline to reach out to our mutual client until later in the afternoon. And that would give this agent the opportunity to reach out to that client during the day and just find out what that client wanted to do. And that, well, truly, he's a customer at this point. And that I wanted that customer to be able to have his choice of whoever he wished to work with. And that I would politely go away if he chose this other agent, no hard feelings whatsoever. I was delighted when the customer called me later in the afternoon and just let me know that he intended to continue to work with me, which was very nice. Awkward, yes, but very nice. And I got to give him another education on, hey, how about don't click that button on Zillow and Realtor.com, because that's going to sell your information. And last night when we were looking at houses, his mom was with him and mentioned that she's been on Zillow looking for houses for him. And so I used that opportunity to educate her as well on what happens when they click the button. So that is definitely a piece you're going to want to point out very early on in the relationship. Sometimes it's a little less awkward to go ahead and just put it in an email to them and say, hey, friendly reminder, this is how Zillow and Realtor.com work. And I would advise you not to click that button. And then last thing I'll point out that you're going to want to tell them about Zillow, because they are new to the market. They don't necessarily understand how foreclosures work, is Zillow will list things called pre-foreclosures on their website. These are not houses that are available. It is a marketing label that Zillow has assigned to homes. And all that pre-foreclosure means is that this is a home where the owner is behind on their mortgage. It will not necessarily come to market. It will not necessarily become a house that is up for sale, because all that has to happen is the owner just has to pay their mortgage. That's all. I'm sure in my early years, I could have been listed as a pre-foreclosure once or twice. Because when I was young, I got behind on my mortgage a couple of times. It happens. That's all it means. It just means you're behind on your mortgage payment. And as soon as you catch it up, you're going to fall off that pre-foreclosure list that Zillow has. Zillow has a gigantic computer brain searching mortgage records all over the country. And when they see somebody behind on their mortgage, then they're going to put them in there as a pre-foreclosure. Why are they doing this? It's not because they want to let people get a jump on getting that house. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because it gives them more inventory for leads to sell to realtors. So realtors sign up with Zillow and pay money to Zillow so that they can be provided leads. Well, you know, we have extremely low inventory right now. We do not have very many houses for sale right now. So that would not generate enough leads for Zillow to sell to real estate agents. So instead, they have this label pre-foreclosure. It gives them a whole slew of inventory to sell as leads to realtors. So now there are more houses that more people will want to click on, and they can sell that information to real estate agents. Does that make sense to everybody? I don't particularly like it, but it is what it is. So any questions about any of that?
I did have one comment.
Of course.
When, just to kind of give you an idea as far as millennials and everything, I'm kind of at the tail beginning of that. And when I was purchasing my first house, I also didn't even understand how it worked. I didn't understand that if I went to an open house and I talked with them, and then if I went and looked at this other house, and then I was clicking these things on Zillow and all these, I didn't understand that those people were going to work for me and that they get a commission. I didn't understand how any of that really worked. And I got myself into a similar situation. I had like 3 or 4 brokers that were thinking that I was working with them, and I didn't understand that that wasn't okay.
Breaking hearts all over town. Yep.
Yeah, you know. So again, I mean, even just a simple, just to let you know, especially if they are first-time home buyers, just how it works is I think an important thing that we forget, that not everybody knows how it works.
I am making a note because I think that would be an excellent handout to develop. Just a little how's it work kind of flyer, you know,
Yeah.
and you could send it to buyers to say, hi, great to meet you. Making no assumptions about how many houses you've bought and sold, but just to give you a brief overview of how I get paid. And you know, on that same note, many buyers nervously work with you for a month or two, and eventually the conversation comes up that they don't actually have to pay you. And then you just see their shoulders relax, and they thought all along they were going to have to pay you somehow, you know?
I thought I did as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know how it worked. Yep.
All right, I'm making a note. That'll go on my gigantic pile of things, of wish list items that I will get done. Okay, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing. So the other thing I'll say is you got to be where they are, right? Where are they hanging out? They are not on Facebook. I'll tell you that, you know, they are not on Facebook because their parents and grandparents are on Facebook, right? I mean, my adult child has Facebook, but she doesn't ever post anything there, you know, and I'm no dummy. I'm on her Instagram where I'm following her. She's following me, but that's not her only Instagram, you know? And it's not like she's even up to no good. They just don't necessarily want to share every single thing with their parents and grandparents. I get it. However, they're not on Facebook. So keep your intended audience in mind when you're doing advertising. I'm probably going to advertise a first-time home buyer, $120,000 house differently on Facebook. I'm not probably going to be marketing it directly to the buyer. I'm probably going to be directing it to the buyer's parents who are on Facebook looking for houses for their kid, right? Now, if I'm on Instagram, I may very well be marketing directly to the buyer. Listen, I'm not going to be on TikTok. That is where they are, but I'm not going to be on TikTok doing a TikTok dance advertising a $120,000 house. There will be agents who are, and good for them. But I'm just not that committed. So you want to make sure you're on Instagram. You want to make sure you're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great spot because they are actually on there because why? They are looking for jobs, right? So that can potentially also be a good spot to advertise. And I will argue that it is not the most common place that real estate agents are advertising on LinkedIn. So you may actually be able to capture a little more audience there. So a tool I would point out to you is Canva. If you have not used Canva, and that is Canva, you could get a free account with Canva, and you can do a lot with it with the free account. I have opted to go ahead and pay for the pro version so that I have a lot of stock photography available to me as well, and a lot more templates available to me, but you can do a lot with the free application. So what you can do with that is you can very, very easily make posts for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, banners for your Facebook page. You can make all sorts of stuff on there, and it looks polished and it looks professional, and it's mostly done for you. So it really is very plug and play. You just put your photo in there, your text in there, background's already done. So and it's going to be free use, so you're not going to run into any copyright issues. So that is something I would advise you to use. If you'd like, I'll share my screen real quick and just show you a very quick just sample of how quickly you can make a Facebook post. So I'm going to share my screen now for a moment. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing canva.com. Okay, so we're sharing our screen here. Don't remember what I last have up of my screen, so we will see where I am. So I'm going to go to Canva. So here I am. I should already be logged in. I am. And it's going to keep track of my most recent designs. So here is one. Okay, so going on to, this is a great segue. My next topic today is support your past clients. So if you have a way to support your past clients and you can brand it as well, and kill two birds with one stone, it's awesome. So I saw online on Facebook that one of my past clients was pushing these fall mums, the plants, the potted plants mums, for her kids' middle school. So I jumped on real quick to my text messaging and texted her and said, hey, would it be a total pain in the rear end for me to buy 20 of those? And she was like, oh my gosh, no, that would be amazing. Thank you so much for the support of the middle school. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plop one on the front porch of all my past clients for the past year. So I supported my past client. She's not going to forget that I supported her kid in his middle school and bought 20 mums at $8 a pop. It also gives me an opportunity to see her again when I go to pick up the mums today. And what I did is I hopped right onto Canva, and this was completely made with the exception of me putting my photo on it and my text on it. And in fact, the happy fall was already on there as something else, and I just changed out the words to be happy fall. So I didn't even pick these fonts. They were just ready to go. So I've printed a bunch of them. I've got my paper cutter, and I'm gonna cut them out and put a hole punch on them, and I'm gonna put a ribbon on them and just put them on each one of these plants. And then Saturday morning, at 5 a.m., me and the 8-year-olds are gonna jump in the car and head around town and drop these off on everybody's front porch. So this was very, very, very easy to make. And you can even search templates for things like fall. And I could have grabbed this one. And I could have put, a little bag of Starbucks coffee on their front porch, right? You see that when I chose a different template, it kept all my information. How easy is that?
That's sweet.
Isn't it? So then I just pick another one and say, all right, I'm going to do this one. There we go. Still there, still all my information. It just literally is so simple. I'm getting quite addicted to it. Look how cute I look. I've never looked so fashionable. So, infinite choices here, right? And this would just be very easy to do for a pop by. So I supported my past client. When she shows up to pick up these mums and all the other folks are picking up their mums and they're like, good golly, Chelsea, why are you picking up so many? You know, she's gonna be like, oh my gosh, my real estate agent rocks. She bought 20 of them, right? Well, who's your real estate agent? So there you go.
And they're really nice mums. I picked mine up yesterday.
Good.
Yeah, they're really big.
Awesome. And for $8, I mean, that's going to be for everybody who just bought a house from me. I'm going to be able to get in front of them again for $8 in a real way, right? They're going to look at that mum all fall. Now, when it starts to die, they're still going to think about me and they're going to feel a little guilty when they throw it away. So then maybe they'll throw me a referral or a client or something, right? So just think about how you can do that. How can you support your past clients while also fulfilling a need you should be doing anyway? So this would work great for Girl Scout cookies. This would work great for, you know, Scout popcorn. You know, you get to support your past clients, their children's, you know, efforts. You could make donations to a nonprofit that one of your past clients is very involved in. You know, there are all sorts of ways you can actually do some meaningful gifting by also supporting your past clients. Any questions about that? Has anybody done anything like that in the past? Okay, no pressure.
I have not, but that is a great idea.
Throwing down the gauntlet. Well, this is the first time I've thought of it. I saw her put up there that she was looking for people to buy mums and just decided now or never. I've been wanting to do some sort of fall pop by for my past clients and it's just finally time to do it. So
great idea.
There's no stopping on advertisement or going out there. It's like a never ending world out there. You know, just gotta, if you want to be successful, that's what you gotta do all day, every day.
Yep. I'll tell you, Deepak, that's an excellent point. I've been doing this 18 years and I am still evolving. I'm still changing how I do things. I mean, listen, I'm lucky I have the referrals I have because quite frankly, for the first 15 years, I did not work any of my past clients. I did not stay in touch with them in a meaningful, structured way. I am trying very hard the last 3 years or so to be much more deliberate about staying in touch with them. You know, I now have a happy home anniversary card that I can send out to them every year. I am printing out a list, you know, so that I know when their home anniversaries are. I am making sure that I am putting it on my calendar that I'm going to do something twice a year for them. You know, it can be something like a mum. It can be something like, you know, a box of Girl Scout cookies. I do that twice a year to all my past clients. I'm spending, you know, less than $20 and I am reminding them twice a year that I'm thinking about them and I'm happy they're enjoying their home, right?
Yep.
It's
Question.
Yes, please.
Is there anybody who does that for you for a fee? Because, you know, yeah, I wish there, I mean, I don't know, see if somebody will take care of it for you.
Believe you
me,
me, Deepak, I need somebody. So if you know somebody, let me know. I mean, I don't know. I am sure there are sort of automated pop by.
what is a bomb and bunch of websites, but you still gotta sit there, set it up for it to be automatically doing it. So you still gotta, you know, put your time into initially setting up, okay, every 6 months or
That's right.
every day. So, well, we'll see. Maybe
Hey,
that's
yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Can you see if Carla's waiting to be admitted? Could you see if she's on there waiting?
Well, I did let her in. It says she's connecting to audio, so I think she is
Okay.
in.
So,
I assume so. She's not in the waiting room anymore.
all right.
Anybody have any other questions about that? Because I want to touch on national flood insurance for a quick minute before we get to the Q&A section.
I sent a card out to a past client. They were a young couple, bought a house a couple years ago, and I just recently just put a card together and just said, hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope everything's going well. Congratulations. They just had twins last year. I said, congratulations on your twins, you know, several things, and just popped it in the mail. And then wasn't a few months, probably a month later, um, he said, oh my gosh, you know, you sent that card and it just prompted us. We're thinking about selling our house. Of course, we want you to do it. And, you know, he said, we wouldn't want anybody else, but it just, at that particular time I sent it to him, it just sort of coincided with everything going on with them. And it prompted that. So I think I'm going to be selling their house and at some point looking for another house for them. And then one other past client, he's become a really good friend. We, you know, as far as just, you know, chatting back and forth and everything. And he has actually brought another client to me. So, you know, it's very important to stay in contact because, for one thing, you do a good job for them. And then they're more likely to refer you. You stay in touch with them, it becomes even more personal to them, and you know, they come back to you again, and they send other people to you. So that's what I found.
Yes, and I'll tell you, Facebook is a good tool for that. I don't love Facebook. I think most people don't love Facebook. But what it does help me do is if I Facebook friend my past clients, I do know when they, you know, their kid wins a baseball game, or they announce a pregnancy, or they lose a parent, right? So I at least know that's happening, and I can send out a thoughtful card just to say, hey, I'm just thinking about you during this difficult time, and I'm so sorry, you know. That's not me trying to get business. That's just, we became friends while I was selling them a house, and I'm trying to be a good friend, you know. And Facebook at least lets me stay in tune to their big life changes, you know. So love it and hate it, Facebook is good for that, right? Yep. Okay, let's talk about national flood insurance rate cap expiration date. Doesn't that sound like an exciting way to start your Thursday morning, as it's going to rain all day today? So if you've heard me beat this drum before, I'm going to beat it some more. The current administration, and I'm talking about Congress here, the current administration is very, very hesitant to renew the national flood insurance rate cap in any sort of meaningful way or meaningful length of time. They have continually done 60-day extensions, 30-day extensions, about 14 or 15 times now. So in the last 2 years. So it is a very frustrating situation that we can't seem to get a long renewal on the rate cap. And I'm going to explain to you why that is important. So national flood insurance is required by lenders when a house is in a flood zone. What insurance providers can charge is dictated by a rate cap that is imposed by Congress. When that rate cap expires, and thankfully it never has expired in recent history, if it were to expire, then what insurance companies could charge would no longer have a cap on it. So you could find that a homeowner who is paying $200 a month for flood insurance may get a notice that their flood insurance premium is going up to $800 a month. Well, I don't know about you, but that would wreak havoc on my budget, and we would not be able to keep our home probably if our mortgage payment went up another $600, $800 a month unexpectedly. So Congress is good about not letting it expire, but a lot of that has to do with the National Association of Realtors Lobbyist Group, RPAC, that's the Realtors Political Action Committee, keeping the pressure on Congress to and their senators to make sure that this is not going to expire. However, it's due to expire again, September 30th. As of yet, it has not been extended. So I would just say that if you have a client who is closing on a house sometime around this time or due to close at the beginning of October, and it is going to have flood insurance, just keep an eye on this, okay? Keep an eye on it and make sure it's going to get renewed. Where are you going to keep an eye on it? Me. You can ask me. You also can look on the Virginia Association of Realtors site. So if I go, and I'm going to share my screen again, if I go to the Virginia Association of Realtors site, then they're going to have something about flood insurance. If I type into this little bar here, we see here, National Flood Insurance Program Extension, Virginia Realtors pushing for a long-term fix. And that's what they're doing. They are pushing to try to get a more long-term fix than us having to all fret and gnash our teeth every 30 to 60 days that we're worried that it's going to expire. Because what's going to happen is if buyers cannot pay their monthly premium for their flood insurance, then the mortgage company is going to call the note. They're going to say, sorry, unless you can get that flood insurance back in place, we're going to make you have to pay your mortgage now. And I don't know about you, but I can't pay my mortgage this month in full. So that's going to put a lot of people into the foreclosure proceedings. So anybody have any questions about the National Flood Insurance Rate Cap? Not the most, glamorous of topics, but it is critical to our industry.
I know we talked about it in the past.
Yes.
About cash buyers purchasing homes in the flood zone and renting them out.
That's right.
What are so the tenants would have to worry about their losses? Not the
Yes,
landlord.
tenants should always be carrying
rental
renter's insurance. Now, I think that's important for renters to know, and I don't know who's telling them this, but renters should know that they should specifically be asking their insurance agent if their renter's insurance will cover flood damage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep. Okay. Time for questions and answers. Who's got a question for me? I'll see if I've got an answer. Or anybody want to share anything that has happened recently that surprised them, or they had to call me and get an answer about?
Yeah, the HUD homes that I called you about.
Yes.
I thought that was weird.
Deepak was hoping he was special, but sadly he was not. He wanted to buy a HUD house that was for owner occupants only, but he wanted to buy it as an investment piece. And the first 21 days were reserved only for owner occupants. So you gave it the good old try, Deepak. You asked me all the questions, but I shot you down every time.
That's all right.
He was like, how long do I have to live there? Well, probably 2 years, Deepak. Yep.
One thing that I've heard a couple times this week, Ashley, that you might want to touch on is about buyers changing their financing at the last moment. Not just financing, but like lenders at the last minute. So I know there's cases of that this week.
I'd be happy to touch on that. People are frustrated with their lenders, and it's not necessarily the lender's fault because lenders are covered up, and they're covered up with refinances in addition to purchases and resales. So it is taking a little longer for lenders to perform, and they're a little more covered up, and their communication is maybe waning a little bit, coupled with buyers being very anxious that they want to close before their rate lock expires because they really, really want this good rate. So it's causing some rub with lenders and buyers who are feeling a little frustrated that they're not closing faster. It was about a month ago, I started hearing through the grapevine that we should be writing 45-day contracts. It's going to be hard to get it closed in 30 days. Lenders and appraisers, and a lot of it comes down to appraisers. They just don't have enough time to physically do all of these appraisals that we are requesting. So it's causing some delays. And in this case, this week, the buyer got very frustrated with the lender and decided to use a different lender. But that would be okay, except that we're a week and a half out from closing. And in the contract, it states that the buyer may change their financing so long as it does not affect seller's net, meaning what the seller is going to take away from the purchase, or closing date. Well, if you change lenders a week and a half before closing, it is going to affect closing date. I do not know of a lender who can close you in a week and a half in this market right now. So we are encouraging the buyer to reconsider just pushing forward with this lender, and let's just get it across the closing line, right? They're not having warm fuzzies in this situation. And honestly, observing the situation, I don't think the lender's having warm fuzzies in this situation either. You know, anxiety is high right now, and our agent is doing their best to make sure everyone's feeling supported and that everyone is getting the communication they feel like they need. So it's difficult right now. And we have to remember, lenders don't have to work with you. Lenders can say, I'm so sorry, I think you should find a lender who is going to meet your expectations more. We can say that too to buyers and sellers. Now, in the middle of a contract, you can't. But if you're working with a buyer and you're not sure you're going to be able to meet their expectations, feel free to say, you know what? I am so sorry that I feel like I might let you down and I may not be able to give you the service that you are looking for, but I'd be happy to cut you loose and let you find a buyer's agent who you think is going to work better for you. There could be something very freeing in that. Same with sellers. You can let them out of their listing agreement if they're not happy with the service they're receiving, or the results they're receiving, I should say. Did you want to add anything, Jennifer, about?
So on the other case, the buyer for that agent's buyer had been pre-qualified with 2 lenders, but they chose, you know, one over the other. And coming down to, like, I guess it was a week and a half before, same kind of scenario, the lender they chose had come in with much higher fees and some additional expectations that were not made up front, like were not presented up front. So that agent switched to the other lender very quickly. So what is because that lender assured her that it could get closed in the same amount of time, that, you know, they had already started the process. They just chose the other one over this one. So when that happens, what is the disclosure for the other side? Because the other side of the contract was alerted when they had to have a second appraisal, because the appraiser was not in this new lender's data bank or what have you.
Well, I'll tell you, the contract is not terribly clear on that. You know, Section 13, Clause 13 on the purchase agreement says that they're going to have X numbers of days to apply for the loan. Well, they did. You know, they're just switching lenders. They're applying a second time, but they did meet that requirement. Now, I think that second date in that same paragraph where it talks about when they will have approval by, they may be missing that date. So, I mean, they do have approval because they have approval from the previous lender. So our contract is not clear about switching lenders. I think what will hang you up is that language that we write in so often, that they may change their financing so long as it does not affect seller's net or closing date. If they can't close within the same time contingency that's on that contract, and I know that we're an on or about closing date, but I think it's reckless to say, oh, well, I'll just go with that on or about, and, you know, and the seller has can have no opinion on the matter. But I also don't think it gives the seller a termination right. So it gets very muddy very quickly. And sometimes you need to change lenders. Sometimes, you know, when you find out close to closing that the product you thought you were getting is not the product you're getting. And again, use local lenders. Right. You know, when you're using non-local lenders, sometimes they can have teaser rates up front, and then they pile a bunch of stuff on at the very end because they know you're closing in a week. What are you going to do then? So I would again recommend using local lenders and explaining to your buyer why you're recommending them use a local lender. Yeah. But the contract does not speak to that, Jennifer. It's, you know, and if I were the seller, I'd be irritated too. You know, I've already lined up movers. What do you mean we're going to switch to a new lender now?
Right. Well, I know in that first case, it all happened on a Friday. So I know that agent was scrambling and the buyer was scrambling to get everything to the new lender to get it moving forward.
Right.
And I know that the agent was like, well, I didn't want to scare them half to death that there was something wrong with the loan, because really it wasn't.
Right.
But the buyer didn't want to bring the extra money that they were requiring. So it kind of was a problem with the loan.
Right.
It was kind of a big old gray area there. And she didn't really know how to, like, do I say something? Do I not say something? Do we just let this go through? What do we do? What's the best route?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
What would be the problematic issue if they change the lenders and they can't close on the date that was supposed to be on or about?
So you're not actually in breach of contract as the buyer. You're just made everyone very grouchy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And you're basically just saying, I don't care what any of y'all's plans are. We're going to go with my plan. And, you know, you're going to have a lot of upset people. Contractually, I don't think it actually makes you vulnerable to being in breach of contract as the buyer. But you know, it's not as we would say in the spirit of the transaction, you know. Right. Yeah. And I think we're probably going to see, this is how changes get made on standard forms, right? When a problem starts to become an issue more often, they'll end up changing the form. Yep. All right, guys, we got to wrap up for the day. I really appreciated seeing all of y'all today. Thank y'all for coming.